Undercover CO exposes shocking secret. What she found in the women's bathroom will make you sick. Before we get into this story, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And if you enjoy stories like these, make sure to subscribe, as we upload at the same time every day. Olivia Carter was used to handling chaos. As the CEO of a growing cafe chain spread across the nation, she had dealt with late shipments, store remodels, and all kinds of staffing crises. But she had never gone this far, never stepped out of her office dressed in a plain polo and faded jeans to blend in as a low-level employee at one of her own stores. It wasn't just a whim. She had received a string of complaints from employees about their store manager, and while the usual protocol was to send an HR representative, the allegations felt too urgent, too unsettling. Word around corporate was that the manager, Greg, had an iron grip on his team. People whispered about how female employees seemed especially uneasy. They hurried out of the break room as soon as he arrived and often asked to switch shifts or cut their hours. In the first 3 minutes of Olivia's arrival, she felt a thick tension in the air. This wasn't just another store with a grumpy manager. Something here was very wrong. She noticed the first red flag almost immediately. Whenever a female employee headed to the women's bathroom, they looked over their shoulders, darting quick glances at Greg's closed office door. Their faces carried an unmistakable tension, not just typical workplace stress. It was as if they feared being monitored. She had stepped into the cafe at dawn, hoping to experience the morning rush, and was handed an apron by the assistant shift lead, a nervous young woman named Sophia. Sophia's hands shook while she explained how to fill coffee filters, restock pastries, and keep the counters sparkling clean. Olivia pretended to be a brand new hire, a woman who just needed a job to support her family. She made small talk about her kids and mortgage, fabricated details to keep up the ruse. Sophia kept biting her lip, clearly uncomfortable. At first, Olivia thought it was just first-day awkwardness on her part. But then she noticed how Sophia glanced at the store manager's office every time she mentioned anything about break schedules or the restroom. "Don't be late getting back from breaks," Sophia muttered in a near whisper. "He times us." Olivia took note but played along, politely asking how many minutes they were allowed. Sophia leaned closer and whispered, "He says we get 10, but I swear if I'm even 1 minute over, he comes looking." An hour into her shift, Olivia wiped the counters while eyeing the manager's office from across the room. Greg, a tall man with a forced smile, occasionally emerged to circle the floor. He rarely spoke to customers, barely glancing their way. Instead, he seemed hyper-focused on the female employees, checking their uniforms, making snide remarks if an apron wasn't tied neatly, or if a hairstyle wasn't pulled back tightly enough. For the most part, he ignored Olivia, seeing her as just another new face. But the moment she caught him staring was unforgettable. His eyes flickered with annoyance, and he tapped the doorframe of his office, as if warning her not to pry. She simply returned to scrubbing the counter, all senses on high alert. When the line of customers finally thinned out, Olivia took her scheduled break. She watched carefully as Sophia and another barista, Lisa, headed to the women's restroom in tandem. Something about their cautious glances made Olivia's heart pound. Why would they feel the need to go in pairs? The next time she saw Lisa on the floor alone, Olivia quietly asked if everything was okay. Lisa froze momentarily, as if she might spill a closely guarded secret, then forced a smile and shrugged. "Everything's fine," she said stiffly, hurrying away to greet a new wave of customers. Fine was the last word Olivia would have chosen for the atmosphere here. She tried to keep her composure, but something was off. Normally, she'd expect employees to be chatty with someone new, maybe even showing her the ropes more enthusiastically. Here, there was a collective wariness. One older employee, who seemed more confident, approached Olivia and quietly mentioned that the manager keeps tabs on everyone, especially the women. Olivia asked what that meant, but the woman just shrugged, looking over her shoulder with genuine fear. If there was an issue beyond standard workplace intimidation, she needed to figure it out quickly. After all, she hadn't come undercover just to observe. She was ready to take action if she found serious misconduct. And something told her this wasn't just a bit of intimidation or micromanagement. This felt more sinister. Later that morning, a wave of customers poured in for lunchtime smoothies and sandwiches. As they scrambled to fulfill orders, Olivia overheard an unsettling exchange. One of the female employees asked Greg if she could take a quick personal break, her voice trembling ever so slightly. Greg responded with a hard stare, then told her she could go, but only for no more than 2 minutes. The employee practically bolted to the restroom. Watching her vanish behind the door, Olivia felt a shiver. The manager's office door was cracked open, and his eyes followed the young woman's every move. She forced herself to keep cleaning the counters, but the sense that something deeply disturbing lurked in this store pounded in her mind. She hadn't even been here half a day, and already the tension was suffocating. By the time her first break was officially due, Olivia felt mentally exhausted. She realized the only way to get to the bottom of this was to see if there truly was something behind the employee's fear of the restroom area. She decided to bide her time, wait until after closing, and conduct a discreet inspection. Because if these employees felt they were being watched, monitored, or threatened in any way, she had to find out, and she had to put a stop to it before more people were hurt. She just didn't know how bad it might be yet, and whether she was about to discover something that would shake her to her core. Olivia stayed quiet for most of her shift, meeting a rotating cast of customers who usually lined up for coffee or sandwiches. She tried to blend in, occasionally trying to engage a coworker with friendly conversation, but she sensed their guarded replies. She witnessed Greg looming behind staff members, checking their work at uncomfortably close distances, then retreating back to his office with the door partially ajar. Every time a female employee passed his office, Olivia saw Greg's gaze flicker, scanning them from head to toe. He had a bizarre habit of stepping out of the office whenever a woman walked by, as though he wanted them to see that he was watching, too. It was all a twisted show of power, she suspected. One moment that truly unnerved her came around mid-afternoon. The cafe was calmer, the lunch rush over, and employees were wiping tables. Lisa whispered to Sophia that she needed to use the restroom. Sophia immediately stopped what she was doing and said, "I'll go with you." Lisa just nodded, and they left together. Olivia took that opportunity to pass near Greg's office, casually picking up dirty dishes from an adjacent table. He was inside, leaning back in his chair, eyes glued to a small monitor on his desk. She glanced in, pretending she hadn't noticed him. She saw multiple screens, typical security feeds showing the counter, the dining area, the back exit. But there was one window on the screen that displayed something so jarringly out of place, Olivia's stomach twisted. It appeared to be a static, partially obscured angle of a tiled wall. Could it be the women's restroom? Her gut reaction was to step back and pretend she'd seen nothing, but her heart hammered with rage. She forced herself to walk away, reminding herself that she couldn't blow her cover just yet. Instead, she grabbed a rag and started wiping tables, thinking furiously. If Greg truly had a camera in the women's restroom, this was beyond workplace harassment. It was a crime. Olivia's heart rate soared at the thought of that. How many women had used that restroom? How many times had their privacy been invaded by this sick man? She replayed the series of events in her mind. Employees whispering, the uneasy looks, the way they seemed afraid to be in the bathroom alone. It all clicked with horrifying clarity. It was tough to keep a straight face, but Olivia knew she had to gather evidence, and more importantly, she had to ensure the safety of these employees. She continued her shift as if nothing had changed, but inside, she was a volcano ready to erupt. Greg's presence behind her, especially when she stepped behind the counter, felt more menacing now that she suspected his crimes. Every time he spoke, every time he smirked, it took all her willpower not to confront him right then and there. But she needed proof. A confrontation without evidence could lead to nothing but denial, and if he caught wind of her suspicions, he might destroy whatever evidence existed. At closing time, Olivia watched as the last straggling customers left. Some employees clocked out immediately, not wanting to stay a second longer than required. Sophia and Lisa were assigned to clean up alongside Olivia. Greg lingered, occasionally barking instructions or criticizing the cleanliness of the blender station. Olivia noticed that, strangely, he was in no rush to leave. She suspected he felt safer with everyone gone, free to continue his twisted obsession. He finally retreated to his office, leaving the three women in the main dining area to finish mopping and wiping surfaces. Olivia asked Sophia and Lisa if they'd mind if she finished in the dining room alone so they could go tidy the restroom. Her voice was casual, as though just dividing labor. Sophia cast a sideways glance at Lisa, and both looked profoundly uncomfortable. "We can do it," Lisa said. "It's no problem." Olivia gently insisted that she'd be fine alone. She wanted them out of Greg's sight for even a few minutes, so she could watch him and possibly slip into the restroom after they'd finished. They complied but seemed nervous, rushing off to the back with a subdued urgency. A few minutes later, Greg's office door swung open. He walked out and strolled around, checking the newly cleaned tables. Olivia kept her back turned, carefully stacking chairs, straining to hear his every move. She heard him wander toward the restrooms, where Sophia and Lisa were cleaning. Olivia's pulse quickened. What if he walked in on them? What if he tried something right there? She decided to intervene by casually walking in that direction, eager to keep a close eye on him. But when she got close, Greg simply raised his voice slightly, telling Sophia and Lisa to hurry up. Then he turned and gave Olivia an almost condescending nod. "Don't take all night here," he muttered, then vanished back into his office. She could only exhale, partially relieved, but still furious. Finally, Greg announced he was leaving and locked his office. That was her chance. She waited until she heard the front door close behind him. After exchanging glances with Lisa and Sophia, she asked, "Do you two mind if I check something in the restroom? I think I dropped my phone in there earlier." Neither questioned her. But Olivia could see curiosity flicker in their eyes. Maybe they suspected she was more than she appeared. She stepped into the restroom, her heart thudding with every step. She scanned the ceiling, the corners, near the vents and light fixtures. At first, she saw nothing. Then, by the mirror, she noticed a panel that seemed slightly ajar. Standing on the edge of the toilet, she carefully reached up. Her hand touched something smooth, a small device with a tiny lens, nearly invisible if you weren't looking for it. It was definitely a camera. Olivia's stomach lurched at the violation of privacy happening here. She quickly pulled her phone from her back pocket and snapped pictures, documenting the device's location. Anger and disgust welled up inside her, but she forced herself to remain calm as she exited the restroom. Lisa and Sophia were by the counter, waiting. Their expressions were tense. Olivia simply nodded at them, not sure how much she could reveal without putting them at risk. Inside, though, she was vowing to bring Greg down and make sure no one else ever felt unsafe in one of her cafes again. Olivia didn't sleep that night. She spent hours staring at the photos she'd taken. The next morning, she went in earlier than anyone else, using the manager's key she had secretly lifted off a hook for a few seconds the previous night to make a quick copy. It was risky, but she had to be certain she could access whatever he had in his office. She arrived before the official opening, heart pounding, then slipped inside Greg's office. The company used standard, store-issue locks for manager offices, but she had never thought she would be the one quietly unlocking one of them. She closed the door behind her, flicked on the desk lamp, and powered on the monitor. Seeing the feed of the restroom come to life made her stomach churn. But she wasn't just looking. She was transferring footage to a flash drive she'd brought along, determined to gather enough evidence to ensure Greg faced the full consequences. Her plan was almost ruined when she heard footsteps outside. Panicked, she yanked the flash drive free and shoved it into her pocket, flipping off the monitor. She pretended to be examining a stack of inventory papers when Greg walked in. He stared at her, confusion etching his face. "What are you doing in my office?" he demanded. She plastered on an innocent smile. "I was looking for paper cups. Sophia said they might be in here." Greg's face twisted in annoyance. "We keep supplies in the back room, not my office. Next time, ask." Olivia apologized, ducking past him, feeling his suspicious gaze drilling into her back. He clearly wasn't pleased that she'd been in there alone. But he didn't question her further, probably because he thought she was just a clueless new hire. Still, her heart thumped with adrenaline. She had the evidence now, and soon, Greg would be out of a job and into a jail cell if justice prevailed. Later that day, she quietly confided in Lisa, giving her a small glimmer of the truth. "I'm here from corporate," she murmured. "I can't say more, but you can trust me. We're going to stop this." Lisa looked like she might cry from relief, but she nodded briskly, saying nothing. Sophia sensed something was happening as well, but Olivia didn't want to risk telling too many people. If word got out, Greg might flee or destroy evidence. She needed the right moment to confront him publicly, ensuring everyone understood the depths of his wrongdoing. By the middle of that second day, the tension reached a new height. Greg was picking fights over trivial matters. Someone had placed the baked goods labels in the wrong order, the napkin dispensers weren't angled correctly on the tables, meaningless details that no reasonable manager would obsess over. The employees tiptoed around him, but Olivia stood firm, refusing to cower. If anything, she sought out small confrontations, tiny challenges that would push him to reveal more of his toxic behavior. When she asked to rearrange the condiment station to improve customer flow, he snapped that her ideas were worthless, and she needed to know her place. Olivia bit back a retort, reminding herself of the bigger picture. Still, the confrontation caused a stir among the employees, who noticed that someone wasn't bowing to Greg's tyranny for once. Toward the end of that shift, Olivia overheard Greg whispering harshly to Sophia in the hallway leading to the break room. Curiosity pulled her closer. She stood around the corner, eavesdropping on their conversation. Greg accused Sophia of being too slow on the register, then threatened to reduce her hours if she didn't step up. He added a pointed comment about how girls who cause trouble find themselves fired. Sophia tried to stammer a response, but he cut her off, telling her that if she ever brought any nonsense to HR, he had ways of making sure she regretted it. Olivia clenched her fists. This guy was more than a creep. He was a full-blown predator who leveraged fear to keep his employees silent. Sophia rushed off, tears in her eyes, nearly bumping into Olivia. But Olivia pretended she just arrived and gently placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Hang in there," she whispered. Sophia nodded shakily and continued on her way. Once Sophia was out of earshot, Olivia stepped into Greg's path. She locked eyes with him, her stomach on fire with anger, but forced a calm smile. "Any chance I can talk to you about the schedule?" she asked, feigning ignorance. He looked her up and down, suspicion etched into every crease of his scowl. "What about it?" he snapped. Olivia shrugged. "I'd like more hours. Is there any reason you wouldn't give me that?" Greg glared, sizing her up. He must have wondered if she was testing him. Eventually, he barked out a short laugh. "If you prove you can handle it, maybe. Don't give me trouble, and we'll see." That interaction told her all she needed to know. Greg had no remorse, no concern for his employees, no intention of respecting their rights. He was arrogant enough to think he was untouchable. Olivia was boiling with righteous anger, but she had to keep playing the game a little longer. She had to set the stage for a confrontation that would not only expose his crimes but also empower these employees to speak up for themselves, especially those who had been too terrified to fight back. On the third day of her undercover mission, Olivia decided it was time to act. She arrived before opening once more, using the copied key to gather the final bits of footage. She noticed that some older files had been deleted. Greg was probably scrubbing the incriminating evidence whenever possible. But there was still plenty left, enough to convict him, in Olivia's opinion. She carefully copied every file she could find onto a larger flash drive, hoping to see time-stamped evidence showing the camera's feed. After nearly half an hour, she returned everything to how it was and left Greg's office. Throughout that morning, she observed Greg snapping at employees as usual, but now she knew how he was going to meet his downfall. She had a plan: gather the entire team in the dining area at closing time under some pretense, confront Greg with the evidence, and filmed his reaction to ensure there was no ambiguity. She wanted the employees to see they had corporate support, that they had a right to a safe work environment. She also wanted to ensure there was a witness or two who could confirm what went down in case Greg tried to spin a different story later. As the day wore on, Olivia discreetly pulled Lisa and Sophia aside, informing them something big was about to happen. Both looked immensely relieved, though also terrified. She told them that if they felt safe, they should stay after closing to witness the moment. "You're not obligated," Olivia said softly. "But if you want to see him finally face the consequences, I promise you'll have protection." Lisa smiled bravely, tears in her eyes. "I want to be there," she whispered. Sophia nodded in agreement, though her hands trembled a bit. The moment the store closed, Olivia made sure the doors were locked to keep customers out. Greg, looking irritated, asked what was going on. Olivia said there was a special announcement from corporate, and that the whole team needed to hear it. Greg scowled, clearly displeased that he wasn't informed ahead of time. The employees gathered in the dining area, uncertain, curious, and in some cases, visibly shaking. Greg tried to assert authority by standing at the center of the room, arms folded. Olivia walked forward, looking each employee in the eye, before finally resting her gaze on Greg. That's when she pulled out her phone and pressed a few buttons. With a single move, she turned on a small speaker in her other hand, projecting audio she had recorded earlier, a snippet of him berating Sophia, threatening her job. Greg's eyes bulged. "What the hell is this?" he growled. Olivia didn't miss a beat. "This," she said, "is just the beginning." She clicked again, showing a short clip of the restroom feed, capturing the interior of the women's bathroom from the vantage point of the hidden camera. Gasps spread through the employees. Some covered their mouths in horror. Lisa looked ready to burst into tears, while Sophia's eyes brimmed with anger. Greg's face turned beet red. "You what? How?" He took a step back, as if he might bolt toward the exit. Olivia stared him down. "Don't bother running. I've got enough evidence to ensure you answer for what you've done." The room was electric. No one spoke, but everyone's eyes were on Greg, brimming with fear and rage. He tried to bluster his way out of it. "I have permission from corporate to install extra security. They said I could do it. This is for theft prevention. You're just an employee. You have no idea what you're talking about." Olivia clenched her jaw, resisting the urge to scream at him. But she calmly replied, "I'm not just an employee. I'm your CEO." Shocked murmurs erupted. Greg blinked repeatedly, his bravado faltering as it sank in. He shook his head as if to refute her statement. Olivia reached into her pocket and pulled out her corporate ID, the one that read, "Olivia Carter, CEO." She held it up for everyone to see. Greg's face was a portrait of horror and disbelief. Some employees actually applauded or gasped in relief, realizing who was on their side. "You're lying," Greg sputtered. But his tone suggested he already knew the truth. Olivia advanced on him, phone still in hand. "I have everything I need to make sure you never do this again, to any woman in any store." Greg, desperate, tried to pivot. "You can't pin this on me alone. The IT department set up these cameras. How would I know there was a feed in the bathroom?" He looked around for anyone to back him up, but every single employee turned away or glared at him. He was alone. Olivia shook her head. "We have logs that show who requested and installed that camera. Our policies never allow cameras in restrooms. It's illegal. You knew exactly what you were doing." As the employees stood there, the weight of the revelation settling on them, Olivia made the phone call she'd been waiting to make. She dialed the local authorities. Greg's eyes widened as he realized she was calling the police in front of everyone. "You can't do this to me," he yelled, voice cracking. "I've done nothing wrong. You have no proof." But his voice carried no conviction now. The store was silent except for Olivia's calm voice giving the address and explaining that they had evidence of illegal surveillance. Waiting for the police was tense. Greg paced around like a caged animal, avoiding everyone's eyes, occasionally shooting Olivia a glare. The employees clustered together on the far side of the dining area, whispering among themselves. Some were tearful, others just looked numb. Finally, the authorities arrived. 2 uniformed officers stepped through the locked doors after Olivia let them in. Immediately, they saw the fear and anger etched on the employees' faces. Olivia approached them, introduced herself by her real name and title, and handed over the flash drive along with a succinct explanation of what was on it. One of the officers asked Greg to step outside. He tried to protest, but they guided him firmly by the arm. Olivia stayed inside with the employees, some of whom collapsed into chairs with relief. No one spoke for a long moment, as if they were all waiting for an official declaration that the nightmare was over. Eventually, the officers re-entered, gave Olivia and the employees a nod, and said they would be taking Greg down to the station for questioning. A ripple of cautious gratitude passed through the room. Greg was removed from the premises in handcuffs, and a sudden cheer erupted among the employees, though it was laced with a bit of shock and disbelief that it was actually happening. With Greg gone, Olivia faced her staff. For a moment, she worried about how they would react to being deceived by their own CEO posing as a regular hire. But the overwhelming sentiment was relief. Lisa walked up to Olivia first, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Thank you," she whispered, voice quivering. "I can't believe you risked your position to come here like this." Olivia placed a reassuring hand on Lisa's shoulder, feeling the weight of responsibility. "No job or position is more important than making sure you're safe," she replied. "I'm just sorry it took this long." Sophia approached next, trembling but with a determined look in her eyes. "So many of us thought we had to just put up with it, that no one would believe us." Olivia nodded, guilt flooding her chest. "I know that feeling. It's why I came. I promise I'll do better to make sure you never feel alone again." Another employee, one who had been there the first day Olivia arrived, spoke up. "Will we get a new manager? Or are we just going to be shut down for this?" Fear lingered in the question, as if losing their jobs was a real possibility. Olivia quickly reassured them. "You're not losing your jobs. This store will remain open. We'll have an interim manager, and everyone will be safe to work as normal. If any of you need time off or counseling services, the company will cover it. You have my word." A sense of camaraderie settled over the group, though the mood was still charged with everything that had happened. Some employees started hugging each other, and a few shed tears as they realized it was finally over. Olivia gave them a moment to process. Then, gathering everyone's attention, she said, "I need all of you to be honest with me. Is there anything else that's been going on here that I should know about? Anything at all?" Several employees stepped forward, sharing smaller complaints of intimidation or harassment. Nothing as serious as what Greg had done with the restroom camera, but it painted a picture of a man who used fear as a weapon. Olivia listened intently, taking mental notes. Eventually, she asked Lisa and Sophia to join her at a table near the corner, while the others cleaned up the last bits of the day's mess. "You two were the first to really trust me," Olivia said softly. "I can't thank you enough for helping me see the truth." Lisa shook her head. "We've wanted to speak up for so long, but no one believed us before. And we were terrified that if we reported him, he'd find a way to fire us." Sophia nodded, adding, "He threatened me so many times, told me I'd never work in this city again if I crossed him. But when you showed up, I had this feeling you were different." Olivia smiled gently. "I wish I had come sooner. Now I want both of you to know the company is going to support you every step of the way." They talked a while longer, each anecdote making Olivia's heart ache for these employees. It wasn't just about the camera, as vile as that was. Greg had systematically broken people's spirits. Some employees had quit months ago, citing personal reasons, but Olivia now suspected they'd been driven out by Greg's harassment. She vowed silently to reach out to them as well, to see if they needed any formal acknowledgement or reparation. This moment was about more than just punishing one predator. It was about changing the corporate culture so no manager could ever exploit their power this way again. By the time the group finished cleaning, the mood was still subdued but hopeful. They all gathered at the door, preparing to lock up for the night. Olivia looked at them, feeling equal parts sorrow for what they'd endured and pride in their resilience. "Starting tomorrow, we rebuild," she told them, voice resolute. "And I need your help to make this store a place where no one is afraid to speak up." A murmur of agreement washed through the small crowd. Some thanked her again, and a few offered timid smiles. The sense of unity was unmistakable. When Olivia arrived the next morning, accompanied by a newly appointed interim manager from another branch, she saw the relief in the employees' faces. Word had spread that not only was Greg fired, but he was facing legal charges for his actions. As the day began, Olivia could already sense a change in the air. The employees moved with a lighter step, cautious optimism etched on their faces rather than fear. Gone was the constant glancing toward the office or the restroom. Instead, they joked lightly with each other, greeting customers with genuine warmth. Olivia moved among them, still in her plain clothes, helping wherever needed. She served lattes, wiped counters, and chatted with customers, who noticed the friendlier vibe. Around midday, Olivia gathered everyone again for a brief meeting in the break room. She wanted to address what had happened without burying them in corporate jargon or empty promises. "I know the last few days have been stressful and shocking," she began. "I want you all to know that I appreciate your courage. Exposing wrongdoing isn't easy, especially when you feel alone. But none of you are alone now. If there's anything you need, if you have any concerns at all, please come directly to me or our new manager. We are here to support you." Lisa raised her hand tentatively. "Are you staying on as a regular employee?" she asked, half joking. A chorus of quiet laughter rippled through the group. Olivia smiled. "Unfortunately, I can't stay in disguise forever. My role is mostly behind the scenes, making sure every cafe in our chain provides a safe and positive work environment. But I'll be visiting more frequently, and not just this store. I learned a valuable lesson about staying connected to what happens on the ground." Sophia spoke up next. "Does this mean other managers who act like Greg will face consequences?" A hush fell over the room, a collective yearning for that reassurance. Olivia took a breath. "Yes. I'm going to review every store's management and HR complaints. We'll be doing surprise visits, maybe even more undercover operations if needed, to ensure that no one else abuses their power." The relief in Sophia's eyes was palpable. After the meeting, employees went back to work, each seeming to carry themselves with more confidence. Some even offered to cover extra shifts for those who needed a break from the emotional stress of the past week. Olivia stepped behind the counter, helping to mix a fruit smoothie, watching as Lisa calmly operated the register without the fear of someone looming over her. It struck Olivia how quickly the atmosphere could shift once the source of the toxicity was removed. As the day progressed, she kept her ear open for any lingering fear or doubts. A few customers had heard rumors, asking why their usual manager was gone. Olivia and the interim manager offered polite explanations that Greg was no longer with the company, and that they were excited to bring new leadership. Most customers shrugged or nodded, some expressing relief if they'd witnessed Greg's rudeness before. Others simply went about their day, unaware of the massive turmoil that had just been resolved. Before closing that evening, Olivia pulled Lisa aside. She had noticed Lisa's natural leadership skills, the way she encouraged new hires, how she quickly resolved small issues without needing to be asked. "I want to ask you something," Olivia said. "Would you consider stepping into an assistant manager role? We'd like to promote from within, and you've shown real dedication and courage." Lisa looked stunned, tears brimming. "Me? Are you sure?" Olivia grinned. "You've earned it. And we need someone who understands the importance of respect and safety." Lisa nodded vigorously, a smile breaking through her tears. Olivia knew it wouldn't erase the trauma overnight, but it was a start. Early the next morning, Olivia made her way to the store for what she hoped would be her final day on site before returning to the corporate office. She found Lisa already there, setting up the pastry case with renewed energy, sporting a manager-in-training badge that she kept glancing at with a mixture of pride and disbelief. Sophia was humming a tune as she organized the coffee station. Even the other employees, some of whom had been quiet or anxious just days ago, seemed more at ease, cracking jokes as they prepped for the morning rush. The transformation was almost surreal. When the doors opened, customers poured in as usual, but this time, Olivia saw a remarkable change in the dynamic behind the counter. Lisa handled the register like a pro, greeting regulars by name, making small talk about their day, and moving orders swiftly along. Sophia confidently worked the espresso machine, taking pride in the latte art she poured. There was laughter, genuine cooperation, and a sense that things were finally right. Olivia pitched in, but she spent a good portion of the morning just observing, grateful that her drastic measure of going undercover had uncovered not only the hidden cameras but also the potential of these employees who had been stifled under Greg's tyranny. Shortly after the lunch rush, a police officer entered, one of the same ones who had escorted Greg out in handcuffs. He approached the counter and quietly asked for Olivia. She stepped forward, heart pounding slightly. The officer politely asked to speak with her privately. They found a corner of the dining area away from the bustle of customers. He informed her that Greg was facing several charges related to illegal surveillance and harassment. There was also a possibility of additional charges if more victims came forward. Olivia nodded, her jaw set with determination. "I'll encourage anyone who's been affected to share their story," she said. The officer thanked her and left. As he departed, Lisa and Sophia looked on, concern in their eyes. Olivia gave them a reassuring nod. "It's good news," she told them quietly. "He's being held accountable." By closing time, Olivia knew it was time to bid farewell to the team she'd grown so protective of in just a few days. She gathered everyone near the counter one last time. "I'll be heading back to corporate tomorrow," she announced. "But this won't be the last you see of me. I'll visit regularly, and our new manager will be here soon. For now, Lisa will help oversee things along with the interim manager. I want to thank each of you for your hard work and your courage." A few employees clapped, others wore wide smiles. Lisa stepped forward. "Thank you for believing us when no one else would," she said. The others echoed her sentiment in their own words, expressing gratitude for her intervention. Olivia felt a swell of emotion. She managed a warm smile, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "You shouldn't have had to go through this," she said softly. "I'm sorry it took so long, but I promise to do everything in my power to prevent it from happening again." Later that night, as she left the store and walked into the quiet parking lot, Olivia reflected on the whirlwind of events. In just a few days, she had uncovered something truly heinous: a manager who used hidden cameras to spy on female employees, who terrorized them with threats, who manipulated the system to keep them silent. The very thought made her stomach turn. But she also felt an immense sense of responsibility. The problem wasn't just Greg. It was a system that allowed him to rise to a position of power without proper checks and balances. She knew her work was only beginning. Her plan was to thoroughly review hiring practices, manager training, and HR reporting procedures across all the stores in the chain. If it took more undercover visits to ensure safety, then so be it. She climbed into her car, taking a moment to breathe. It struck her how close she'd come to missing this situation entirely if she had just brushed off the complaints or delegated them to HR. It was a sobering reminder that leadership meant staying connected to the people who actually did the work. She was determined to foster a culture of openness, where any complaint was taken seriously, no matter how minor it seemed. People's dignity and safety had to be a top priority. No amount of profit or brand reputation could ever justify ignoring that. But in the midst of the heaviness, she felt a wave of relief. She pictured Lisa with her new manager badge, Sophia smiling behind the espresso machine, and the entire team finally free from Greg's oppressive rule. She recalled the look on Greg's face when she revealed her identity, that stunned realization that his days of terrorizing employees were over. Justice had won, at least in this store. As she drove away, she wondered how many more stores might have mini Gregs lurking in the background. It was a question she intended to answer, even if it meant more 5 a.m. shifts in a stolen apron. Her heart was set on cleaning house, on proving that her company genuinely valued its people. Because after seeing the devastation one manager could inflict, she couldn't in good conscience stop at just one victory. The next morning, Olivia sat at her office desk, an array of files and notes spread out before her, each pertaining to a different cafe location. She was exhausted but driven. She typed up a comprehensive report on everything she'd witnessed: the fear in employees' eyes, the hush-hush whispers, the physical evidence of illegal surveillance. She concluded with a detailed plan for regular surprise inspections, confidential hotlines, and mandatory training for managers. She proposed stiffer penalties for any manager who violated even the most basic employee rights. Her mind flashed to Lisa's tearful gratitude and to Sophia's quiet joy at finally being free from harassment. That was all the motivation she needed to push these changes through. Midway through writing her report, she took a break to check her phone. There were multiple messages from the store employees, thank you notes, well wishes, even a few pictures of them smiling in the newly relaxed environment. She could practically feel the transformation radiating through the screen. It was the kind of success story that reminded her why she'd gotten into business in the first place. Yes, profits and expansion mattered, but people mattered more. She finished the report and sent it to the board of directors with a stern note. We cannot allow any complacency on issues of employee safety and dignity. Effective immediately, I want top-level approval on these reforms. Within minutes, her inbox began lighting up with responses. Some board members expressed shock, others horror, at the revelations. Most seemed supportive of her proposed changes, though a few cautioned about the cost and complexity. Olivia's response was firm. We can't afford not to do this. Our employees are our responsibility. That afternoon, Olivia had a conference call with the legal team. They confirmed that charges against Greg were solid and that the company would cooperate fully with the investigation. She also learned that a few former employees had already come forward to share their stories, strengthening the case. By the end of the day, it was clear Greg wasn't just facing immediate jail time. He might end up serving a significant sentence given the scope of his actions. Olivia leaned back in her chair, eyes shut for a moment, allowing the stress of the past few days to seep out. This was the resolution she had hoped for: accountability, justice, and a step toward a better environment for her employees. Yes, there was still much work to do, but at least for one store, the crisis was over. She remembered the fear in Lisa's eyes, now replaced with relief. She recalled how Sophia had bravely carried on day after day, despite the looming threat. Those women were the real heroes, standing up against a man who seemed unstoppable. There was one last piece she needed to address: the final message to the staff, the reassurance that their voices would always be heard. She typed a short memo. To all employees, our mission is to provide not only excellent service to customers but also a safe, respectful workplace for each of you. If you see or experience anything that undermines this, please speak up. We will listen. We will act. Thank you for your commitment and resilience. Hitting send felt like a symbolic milestone. She thought back to the night she confronted Greg in front of everyone, revealing her true identity. The shock, the outrage, the triumph, it all played out like a dramatic scene in a movie. She could still see the disbelief on his face as he realized he had been caught by none other than the company's top executive. It was a moment of clarity for Olivia, solidifying her conviction that no one was above moral accountability. She would carry that lesson with her into every future decision. A week later, Olivia made a quiet return to the store, this time no disguise, no secrets. She walked in wearing her tailored business attire, greeted by Lisa, who looked radiant in her new position. The cafe buzzed with an atmosphere of positivity. Customers were being served with genuine smiles, employees chatted freely, and there was no shadow of intimidation. Olivia approached the counter. Sophia beamed at her. Welcome back. The usual latte? She teased, recalling that Olivia, when undercover, had repeatedly tested the espresso machine. Olivia laughed, nodding. When she got her drink, she wandered around the store, noticing small improvements: a new arrangement of seating to make the space feel cozier, updated signage encouraging customers to give feedback. She overheard employees talking about ideas for community events, a far cry from the tense hush that had blanketed the place just days ago. The transformation was astounding, and it warmed her heart to see how quickly employees could reclaim their power once freed from an abusive manager. Lisa stepped out from behind the register, pointing at the manager's office. "I wanted to show you something," she said excitedly. Olivia followed her inside, half expecting to feel the old dread of Greg's domain, but instead, she found a neatly organized space with a bulletin board featuring staff achievements, birthdays, and positive customer feedback. Lisa explained how she wanted to foster a culture of recognition and gratitude. "I even put up some photos from our last team building event," she said, pointing to a collage of smiling employees. Olivia recognized many of the faces from her undercover days. The difference in their expressions was night and day, relaxed, confident, happy. Satisfied with what she saw, Olivia turned to Lisa. "I'm proud of you," she said simply. Lisa blushed slightly, looking down at her shoes. "Thanks. I'm just trying to make it a place where everyone feels good about coming to work." Olivia nodded, feeling a pang of responsibility again. This should have been the standard all along, not a newfound luxury. But at least now, it would be the new normal. "Keep it up," she said, giving Lisa an encouraging pat on the shoulder. She left the office and said her goodbyes to the staff, promising to return soon. As she stepped outside, the morning sun hit her face, and she felt a surge of optimism. Yes, there would be challenges ahead. She'd probably face pushback from certain corners of the corporate structure for her reforms. But if these last few days had proven anything, it was that shining a light on darkness could transform an entire community of workers. And that was worth every sleepless night. Slipping into her car, she sipped her latte, letting the warmth chase away the lingering chill of the ordeal. She reflected on how a single hidden camera could have destroyed so many lives if left unchecked. Yet, in the end, the store became stronger, the employees more united, and the company better for it. In that sense, the tragedy had birthed a deeper commitment to justice, from the top all the way down to the front lines. And with that thought, Olivia drove off, already planning her next undercover visit, because after this, she knew she could never again sit in an ivory tower, unaware of what might be happening on the ground. She was determined to ensure that no manager under her watch would ever dare plant a camera in a bathroom or rob employees of their dignity. This was just the beginning of a more vigilant, compassionate era, one store, and one hidden camera, at a time. What would you have done in Olivia's shoes? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more shocking real-life stories.